Thank you so much for watching the Shepherd Podcast. This is a great opportunity for you to get to know some key people here at Shepherd of the Hills. And it's been a lot of fun to do these so far. I'm really excited about my guest for today. She is the leader of our school and child care ministry, our Principal Sue Gary. Sue, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here today, Pastor Chris.
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely. So it's summertime and things are a little bit different than the school year, but it's been a very different kind of year to start with. So tell me about what is the life of a school principal like right now?
Well, this summer we're blessed to have summer childcare that's happening and Ram Camp. We're in Ram Camp COVID style, so we have our social distancing and safety measures in gear. We're blessed to have over 100 kids here on our campus. God has blessed us with children that are eagerly going to swimming and having learning time and are able to have some reading time and activities. We had a luau last Friday, and we built temples for Bible study the week before. So they're having a great time of Bible studies and learning and fun. So we're blessed to be able to do that for our children.
Yeah, I right out these windows last week, I saw a group of kids lining up, and so I went out to see what was going on, and they were making volcanoes, pouring different things into cups, and then it all spills over, and looks like they're having a great time.
Science time, yes. So we're combining some of the learning that they may have missed while they were gone and fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit about you and get an overview of your biography. You've been a shepherd for a long time, since 1985.
Yes.
Correct?
1985.
And that was when a girl from Chicago came down to Texas. So can we start back? Tell us about life growing up in Chicago.
Well, my family came from Germany. I was the first generation in Chicago. I grew up in a German section of Chicago. I only spoke German. I didn't learn English till I started kindergarten. And so I was an ESL student throughout elementary school. I attended Chicago Public Schools, and my mom and dad, they met. My mom came from Germany when she was 15 and met my dad. He was a soccer player. And so they got married, and then I have a brother, and so we grew up in the middle of Chicago, and that was a great time. It's very different from San Antonio. We went. Our family was in Germany, so every 4 years, my parents took us there to see our grandparents and our cousins, and they lived on farms. So that was a great experience. I learned how to milk cows, and we couldn't wait. It was such a great opportunity. We'd stay there 6 to 8 weeks, and it was very hard to come home because that was my dream was always to be able to move out there to Germany forever.
Really?
Yes, that's where I wanted to be. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great place.
Well, you didn't end up in Germany. You ended up in Texas.
I ended up in Texas.
That's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now tell us a story about how you became a churchgoer. It involves someone that you've worked with for a long time here at Shepherd as well.
Yes.
Her family, right?
Yes. So my family didn't go to church every week. So a neighbor asked me to come to church, and my mom said yes. And so when I was in kindergarten, she walked with me. She was also German, and so we walked down the alley. We walked every week together to church. And then when I was older, we walked everywhere alone when we were growing up. So I would walk every Sunday. I loved church, and I would walk every Sunday by myself to church, and never missed a Sunday, perfect attendance. And so my whole life, what I wanted to do was to be a teacher. we had basements in Chicago, and I had a piece of sheetrock, and that was where I would have my bulletin boards, and I would teach my brother and his friends the Sunday school lessons. I would bring home my little paper, and I wanted to teach about God. And so my father, he felt that the best thing for me to do was to become an accountant, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I continued to pursue that opportunity to be a teacher and work for God. And for reasons that the public schools were not safe at the time, my parents decided to send me to a private school. So I went to the Lutheran school, where I took the bus, the Chicago bus, and went about 20 minutes down the road to Lutheran High School of Lutheran North. And there I met some great friends, one being Kathy Grappiton at the time, who is actually Kathy Becker at Shepherd. We met in 1977, and her sister, and we went to high school together. And there at the time, I was growing up in a household that I had a great mom, but at the time my dad had he was sick, and he had some issues with alcohol, and so there was stress in the house. But at Kathy's house, I learned how people prayed around the table, and I learned how there was peace in the home, and I saw how God was just such an important part of a family. And they were both teachers in the Lutheran schools, and so they helped instill in me that being a teacher is what I really needed to do. So when I graduated Lutheran North, they helped encourage my family to bring me to Concordia River Forest, because I wanted to be a Lutheran school teacher. And at the same time, my grandmother in Germany, she was in the church too. She was a church elder or a deaconess. Yeah. And she would send us Bible verses, and she taught us Jesus songs, and I wanted to be like her.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a very special person to me.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So you went to Concordia River Forest, mm-hmm. and it was after finishing school there. Yes. That you got an assignment to San Antonio, and your reaction was?
Where's that? I had asked, yes, you meet with a person that places you, and I said I wanted to be 3 hours from home, and I didn't specify car or plane or train, but the Lord said, go to San Antonio, and I didn't know where that was. I knew Texas, and I called my mother and said, Mom, I think I have a job, and it's in Texas. And she didn't say much on the phone. She said, where's that? And I said, I'm not sure. So I came to visit, and God knew that at that time that's where I needed to be. And I had never been away from home, really. So I packed up the Ryder truck, and my parents drove me here, and I watched them fly off when you could still go into the waiting area and watch the plane leave. And I stood there and said, oh, you must be crazy, because I watched my whole family leave. And I came up here to church, and I became part of a family that made sure that I knew how. I watched people here that were holding hands as a family, husband and wives, and God was shining here all the time, and I wanted to be here. So I started here teaching first grade. Yeah,
I wanted you to walk us through what you did before you became principal, because most people around here, they know you as principal, but you did several things before that.
I taught first grade for 3 years, and then I knew that wasn't what God was calling me to do. So we were just opening 6th grade. We didn't go past 5th. So I asked if I could go ahead and work with 6th grade. And so I did. And we were only at 200 children on the campus. And so I was able to help start the junior high. Oh, that was so fun.
Yeah, you were at the very beginning of the junior high.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was here. I was able to start help with the first graduating class. We had 8 kids. That was awesome. So I helped build the junior high for probably about 10 years, almost 12 years. And that was my favorite time. Middle school was what I enjoyed. Yeah. And then one day, the Lord said, through Pastor Dan and Tim Eichstead, they met with me and asked if I had finished my degree, my master's degree in leadership. And the school believed that it was important for people to go on with their education. So they helped us get our master's degree. And so they asked if I would be interested in being the principal. And I was honored, something I never thought. I came to Shepherd to start a new life. I was at a point in my life where that was necessary. I just wanted to be somewhere and share Christ with kids. I never dreamt that I would have these opportunities that I've been given. Mm-hmm. Never. So,
it seems like a very formative experience, and your leadership would have been helping to start the junior high, and that probably would have demonstrated your ability to lead the whole program, from being able to take a program like that as it was beginning, shape the culture of it. And you talked about how much you just really enjoyed that period of leadership. And it seems like, whenever one time of leadership goes well, it leads to new opportunities.
I think the main thing that, to me, it's we lead together, and that's what I felt here at Shepherd, that we always do everything as a team. And my number one was to make sure that I was always being that example to the kids that the number one thing in your life is God. Mm-hmm. And if every day I was able to share with a child, like somebody shared with me when I was young, that the most important thing in your life is God, then I did my job. Yeah. And no matter what my job was, if it was teaching little ones or working as in the junior high or leading the campus, to me it's important that no matter who it is on this campus, that when a family comes on this campus, the number one thing that they leave with is knowing how important God is in their lives, and that they never forget that. Mm-hmm. And that's my goal as the leader, is to make sure that everybody that works here, make sure that everybody that comes here learns that. Mm-hmm. Mm.
One thing I've always admired is your love for children.
Yeah.
That's such a special gift, and I feel like you can see yourself in the children, because you remember being that child who was given a Bible and that child who was taught about God.
Yeah.
And you want that for each of the children who are here as well.
Yes. I think in life sometimes you have experiences and you don't realize that that's what God is preparing you for, is to work with children. And when I see kids that are coming and they're having bad days, or they're looking at me saying, I'm having a hard time at home, and I can look at them and say, I understand that, because I had that too. And they say, you did. Or when somebody is saying, I can't do this reading is hard, and I can say, I understand, because I too don't remember words all the time when I read them. And they look at me and say, really? That's what God prepares us all for. We wonder why there are bumps in the road, and actually those are God telling us, I'm going to get you ready because down the line, your job is going to be to work at Shepherd, to make sure that God's kids are okay every day. And so I'm going to fill your toolbox now so that when those hard days come, you know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great life lesson. I hope that our viewers and listeners are taking all that in, because I thought that was just really important about those bumps in life and how God is up to something. And
yes.
Later on in life, you can look back and you can see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to the point in your story where you became principal. Mm-hmm. Tim had been principal for 20 plus years. What was that whole conversation like? Tim moved over into director of operations. You became principal. People who were your coworkers, now you were their boss. I mean, what was that transition like for you? Because, and I've been in that position as well. It's a big change in a lot of ways. What was that like for you?
Well, the first time you have a meeting, first of all, Mr. Eichstead, he got my office all ready and hung all this great new wallpaper. And the joke is right now that the first day I was in chapel and I was in the front of the chapel and I watched the whole school walk out. And for the first time I stood there and I went, wow, I don't have any students following me. And I looked at Mr. Eichstead and I said, what do I do now? And he laughed. He thought that was very funny. And he said, well, just go back in your office and watch the wallpaper dry. And he was so proud of the fact that he was able to hang that wallpaper. And now I know why, because that was the last day that life was ever slow for that moment. Staff meetings where it used to be, hey, come sit with us, Sue. You don't get invited to a whole lot of tables to sit with anybody when you become that person that leads that operation. Sometimes I can be called Scary Gary, and at one time that I went, what, Scary Gary? But that's okay. That doesn't bother me anymore. Sometimes you have to be Scary Gary to make sure that everybody's following the guidelines. Yes, things change. You go from being the teacher to the leader, and you're leading your peers. You have to always remember to keep that distinct, that business is business, work is work, and friendship is friendship. And so some days it works real well, and some days you just have to remind yourself that your number one reason you're here every day is to do what God wants you to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we could go just a little deeper on that, because there may be people listening who have been in the same situation where they've been with a group of people as a coworker and then they've been elevated to a new position. What do you tell yourself? How do you protect yourself emotionally so you don't take it personally in those situations when you're not getting invited to the table the way you used to? What do you tell yourself?
Well, I enjoy reading books, leadership books, and the one thing that I do that I had an amazing professor. I went to UTSA and did my master's there, and he was a Christian man. And when we came to class, he put little index cards on everybody's desk. And he knew that I was at a Lutheran, that I was here at Shepherd. And so he used to then put Bible verses on my card. And I would then afterwards sometimes share with him, this was a hard day. And he would say, what you have to do is you have to look at yourself in the mirror. And you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning. And if you make a decision and you pray about it and you look at yourself in the mirror, and after 2 days, you still have that decision, and even though everybody else around you might not have that same decision, but you've prayed about it, I call it pause and pray. And you pray about it, and then that you still look in the mirror and that's the right decision, then you go with it. And even if it's not the popular decision, as a leader that it's the right decision. And maybe it's even a leader of your family, or a leader of a team you lead. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have that title on your shield. It's whatever you lead. Right. If you prayed about it and you've paused and thought about it, take a moment and God will help you through that. But you have to really know that in your gut it has to feel right, and then you just go with it. And sometimes it may not be the popular thing, but you know that when you go, it's the God thing.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great leadership lesson right there. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little more about being principal. Joys and challenges. What are the greatest joys, first of all, of being principal?
The joys are being here at Shepherd, seeing the children every day come to school, being able to watch them from now infants all the way through 8th grade, watching them graduate and and be able to hand them across. Oh my, that's so important to me. Handing them across and watching them leave here, and then they come back later and tell you they still remember that time and they have their cross at home, or those are the greatest things when they come back and thank you for what they learned here. Every day is a joy to just be here, and that's the joke. I always say I bleed blue and white, Shepherd colors. Yeah.
You wear blue and white
I wore
as well.
blue and white just because of today.
Good.
Yeah. That's for this whole interview. Yeah. Yeah.
So joys, and what are some of the biggest challenges of being principal? Well, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is I wish that we could do this for free. I wish every kid could come here, and it's hard. The hardest thing for me is I wish there were unlimited funds that we could just, being that tuition-based type of a school is hard sometimes. That's hard for me to watch when kids can't be here because of financial reasons. Honestly, that's a tough one, and that's tough. It's hard when you see a child that you've worked with and you want to say, come on, and sometimes they make choices where you have to come to a point where you have to say, we've tried all of these things and it seems like you're just not on the same page as we are, and maybe maybe there's the place where might be a better fit for you. Those are tough decisions, right? Making sure that we're providing everything for every kid. I've had to learn that may not be what I can do all the time. Learning how to balance family and work, that's been a tough one for me. Shutting off school, I'm working on that. Those are all hard things for me to do. So I don't know. I love what I do.
Now you talked about balancing family and work. Let's go there more, the personal angle. So who's family?
Yeah. Well, I have a husband who's a truck driver. Actually, it's our anniversary today. We're married 29 years.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. You don't see him as much because he drives during the night and sleeps during the day, and so we see each other. We see each other one day a week, pretty much. He and I. He drives. My mom lives in town. She's 84 now. So I have a brother who lives here in San Antonio. Actually, he lives with my mom. He's married to his wife Angie, and they have 2 kids who are part of San Antonio. And the rest of my dad died 20 years ago. So he's no longer with us, and I still have family in Germany, so that's where most everybody was. So that's my family. I live out in the country towards Floresville. Grew up in the cement of Chicago, met a Texan with a drawl, and sorry if anybody's from Texas, it took me a little bit to understand him. I talked fast, he talked slow, but God had a plan.
You married John Wayne, right?
I married John Wayne, I sure did. Yeah, I did. I married John Wayne, yeah. And we have a great marriage, just gets better every year. I've learned to live near cows and goats, and we have dogs. We love dachshunds. Oh, that's our babies. No children. God said I needed to spend time with the kids here, so our dogs are our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my family.
And what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? You know, we have a Polaris that my husband and I we like to drive our Polaris. He and I like to take road trips. That was what I learned that there's a lot of Texas to see, and when we first met we had no money. So the fun thing was beef jerky. I didn't know what that was. Beef jerky and road trips to the lake. Through the back roads, the winding roads, didn't know there were that many in Texas. So we could afford beef jerky and we could afford a sandwich. So we still do that once in a while. We just take off and go. So that's what we do for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything I didn't ask that I should have asked?
No.
No?
I'm honored to do this. Love my church family. I've been here 35 years. This is my home. Yeah. So I'm honored to be here and to do this today. And thank you.
What keeps somebody in the same ministry for 35 years, for their whole career?
The one thing we learned in our family was you don't quit. That's the one thing the Germans taught us, is you don't quit. I don't know how you can walk away from. I work for God. That's the greatest honor there is, and I don't know how you walk away from that when you have all of us here together doing that. I don't know. That was my calling, and that's what God asked me to do, and so that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really call it a job. I call it a ministry, and I worked really hard to get to this ministry, and so I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for the conversation.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have a lot of fun working together. It's really important, our two positions to connect and
we do.
To dream together and to make things happen. And
I
give
have a
thanks
lot
for
more
you.
to do.
A lot to do, and challenging times in COVID world, but we're finding ways to make it happen, and God is opening doors.
Yes. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, or subscribe. Share it with other people so that they can enjoy it. And please tune in next time to the Shepherd Podcast. Once again, thank you for joining us. God bless you.